Oh, and a good start. Shall I turn my email off? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully everyone is safe and well, and let's get the awkward bit out of the way and make sure the levels are cool. Hopefully it's all going to work out. So this is my voice, and here's some guitar. Make sure everything is cool. Hopefully that all marries up pretty cool. Lovely, lovely. You 7-string. No, you're not the first here. You may be the first in the comments. Evening, afternoon, morning. Cool. My name's Ross. Oh, it's a really awkward, dodgy start. My name's Ross. I'm one of your friendly product specialists. We're here for another Learning with Line 6. And in typical me fashion, I keep choosing subjects that are particularly hard. And we're going to have a go at getting some tones from the legend, the myth, the man that is Steve Lukather. I'm going to try and keep an eye on the comments and see as we go. So, obviously, you know, disclaimer, I'm not Steve Lukather. I do not play like Steve Lukather. I don't have his guitar. And I certainly don't have his fingers or his brain. So I'm going to refrain from pretending to be anything like Steve, and we're just going to try and get something like some of the tones that he's kind of known for. And there may be a few surprises in there. So hopefully we'll get something like, and it's a good starting point for you. So I'm going to make sure this preset is up on custom tone, and I'll link to that in a little while. But let's dive in. So let's look at some of the history of the gear he used and the kind of tones he created. So back in the day, obviously, if you don't know who Steve Lukather is, Google the man. You may not have heard of him. You have definitely heard him play guitar. One of the most prolific session guitar players to have ever played the instrument. Certainly one of the greatest guitar players to have ever played the instrument. The man is insane. He can just do anything, and his tone is always just bang on. So we'll see what we can do tonight. Yeah, Steve who? Him, Luke. So early days, Steve would get a call and he would turn up at the studio and either use whatever was there or just take a guitar and a small little tube amp, plug in and see what was what. When things started to take off for him, started working with Quincy Jones, he would generally use kind of Fender amps, sometimes Marshalls, and we'll show you what you can do with some of those Fender amps. The probably a deluxe reverb or something he would use, and that was almost certainly modded by Paul Rivera or other LA session kind of amp tech. But even with the stock stuff that we have within Helix, we can get pretty close. Couple of pedals here and there just for a little bit of juice. And then moving on through to the 80s, used a ton of different gear. If you see the Starlix video, you'll see him using boogie amps and a lot of rack effects. So that's when he kind of went into the Bob Bradshaw territory. Just racks full of gear, lexicon reverbs and delays and Diatronics choruses and all sorts of things, eventides for micro pitch shift, which became kind of the chorus and the pitch shifting thing almost became a little bit cliche, and you'll hear that great 80s tones, but we kind of moved on a little bit later, and he went through a few different things. So he would use Marshall amps, he'd use the occasional boogie. He went to Rivera for a while, had a signature amp with them. And more recently, sort of back to the Bradshaw systems with the, I forget the name of the preamp, the 3+ preamp, I think it was. 3-channel 2 preamp into VHT power amps, and he would run a wet dry wet system, and then moved on to Bogner amps. So although we have models of Bogner amps within Helix, you'll see I've not used that. You'll see why, but yeah, let's dive in and try and get some sounds. So if you listen to Michael Jackson, for example, if we take the track PYT, that's just total Lukather at a very specific kind of rhythm style with pop music. So playing on White Sister is incredible. He's playing on anything is incredible. Turn up in the room a little bit. So signal chain, by the way, guitar straight into Helix. And the guitar I'm using is actually my old Variax, only because Luke was known to use kind of EMGs for a very long time. He's gone to DiMarzio pickups now on his signature Music Man guitars. There's a lot of clarity in all of the pickups that he's always used, and this is kind of the closest guitar that I've got. So we're going to use this tonight. And we'll show you what I have in here. And we'll get rid of me, because you don't need to see me. So here we go. Right. So starting at the front, I put a wah in there. I'll probably not use it, but he has a wah on his pedal board. So we put one on there. We use the throaty. First up, we have the ubiquitous vibe. Every now and again, it'll kick on kind of a univibe effect a la Hendrix. We've got a compressor. I've gone with the Kinky Comp. This is a compressor he's had on his pedal board recently, so I went with that. Seems to work for a bunch of stuff. Top Secret OD, kind of a distortion pedal. I've got the gain, the level cranked and the gain kind of low, and that does a bunch of different things depending on which amp you're putting it into. So we'll cover that. We've got the Scream 808, typical kind of Tube Screamer settings. Kinky Boost, so again, back in the day, he would almost certainly have used an Echoplex preamp just to give the front end a little bit of a boost. So the first amp using the US Deluxe Norm, you'll see that these things here are in white, and that's because I want to use this amp for a few different things. And you'll see the brick plexi bright as well, same kind of deal on the level. And then we've got the badonk. So I'm actually using 3 different amp models to cover a whole bunch of different sounds. And then cab wise, we've got the 412 Uber V30 and 212 Interstate with a ribbon on there, just because, again, studio session musician, he'll almost certainly have used a couple of different cabs for different sounds. Now, Luke actually has his volume pedal before all of the amps, but I kind of ran out of room, and I've taken some artistic license with this. I personally prefer volume pedals after all the gain, but before delays. So I've gone with that. Obviously, feel free to get rid of any of this and move that around. Dual pitch, so this is kind of simulating that eventide kind of micro pitch shift thing. And then in a parallel path, pretty much as per you would have done with rack systems or in the studio, we've got the Trinity chorus. So that's super wet 80s chorus. We've got a dual delay. So I can't get, just because my brain doesn't quite compute that way, the kind of delay he's very well known for within the gear circles is this circular delay, which I believe you can only get on some of the Lexicon PCM stuff, which are super expensive delay units. And it's a very, very specific delay. There's a way you can do it. I've just gone super simple. This is sort of more in keeping with his more modern pedal board. Just a couple of delays on there. One short, one long. I've got it assigned to the tap tempo, so we've got dotted eighths and quarter notes, and it does that thing. And then a big plate reverb, and again, you'll see this kind of changes per snapshot. So, oh, that was epic. Where are we? It shouldn't be able to create a decent preset. Yeah, cheers, Sheldon. I think I've done all right. Right. So, clean sounds. So early stuff, he played a lot of clean, and he played his old 59 Les Paul. He will have played some kind of Strat style, and he has an old telly as well. Unlimited to humbucker single, so we'll get something like. But that kind of clean sound, you've got that very pop sort of thing, so it does that. And again, that's kind of, it's quite percussive, tiny little bit of kind of compression from the amp, but it just sits so well in a mix. And when you're doing that kind of pop, just sits really, really well with keyboards and hi-hats and stuff. Snapshot 2, I programmed these again. This is all, do what you like with them. It's just a starting thing. This is sort of more where he went into the 80s stuff, so just super heavily processed. And again, kind of going back to a live stream I did not so long ago. Snapshots, if you don't know, you can change a lot of things. So I'm changing parameters on the amp there. Give it a little bit more juice, a bit more level. I mean, super 80s on there. Monto says, could you add 2-rock silver sterling amp to Helix, please? Go to idea scale and throw it on there. Because you don't have power going, can't put anything good in the signal chain for lack of DSP. No, we can get pretty close with this, Cristiano. I will do something resembling this for stumps. So, a couple of clean sounds there. So you're going to think that he would use sort of Marshally based amps for some of his dirty stuff. What he will have absolutely done, sort of certainly in the earlier days, Toto and his session stuff, is use a crank Fender, I guess. So this is what I've tried to do here. So what we've got, we've cranked the gain up, look, we've taken the bass right down so it's nice and solid, cranked the mids up, given it a bit more treble, taking the level down, and we've added the kinky boost, and that sounds like that. So, you know, that's a real cool, nice little kind of crunch sound. That's the kind of thing you'd hear for that. But reacts really, really well to different pickups, so they're kind of positioned too. And with the volume of the guitar rolled down, really good clean sound as well. So with the micro pitch, what I've done, like I say, it's just there's no actual pitch shifting going on per se, but what we've got here, so I've turned this on for this snapshot. Everything else is the same. No, I'm lying. I've added the Scream 808, just give it a bit more mid-range bump, and you'll see the intervals are at 0, but I've taken the cents down and up respectively, pull the mix down a little bit, and that gives it kind of a double tracking thing, just really widens the sound. Does that thing, bit of a kind of a heavier reverb on there as well, and if you listen to kind of isolated tracks, that's more in the keeping of maybe, yeah. Kind of big, wide, double tracked thing. Guitar peak level might be a little high, distorting some. Okay, we'll take it down slightly. Hopefully that's a little better. So both of those sounds created with that US double norm, so what you would normally use as a clean amp, which I did use as a clean amp for the Snapshot 1 and 2. And get a lot of kind of juice out of that as well. Snapshot 5, we have gone with that kind of more later kind of British sound, so we've gone Brit Plexi Bright. You see the settings there. So it's not a million miles away, it's just a little bit thicker, a bit more compressed, but still kind of dynamic. So that kind of does that thing, real kind of thick, saturated kind of British sound. That's just the amp, a little bit of reverb, and the kinky boost on there just to kind of smash the front end slightly. I have assigned a ton of this stuff to foot switches, so you can't see, but I've just gone into stomp box mode. You can totally just add the delay to that, like that. For example, Snapshot 6, we have the kind of super dirty, super processed stuff, so it does that. Just that's, you know, he gets his Bradshaw rig and turns everything on 10. So that's that kind of sound. Within that, obviously, you can just turn anything and everything off. What we have in there, just to get that extra kind of saturation, that's where the top secret OD comes in. So without that, it sounds great. But it just adds that extra kind of compression. And that's probably the kind of sound he would use for that one. So again, that might seem kind of bright, but something when you really dig down and listen to Luke's tone, it's got this great mid-range. It's really kind of difficult to pin down, but it's got this beautiful mid-range and huge kind of big girthy bottom end, but just constantly this clarity and this top end shimmer that's always there. You go to kind of one of those rhythm sounds. I mean, it's big and it's beefy, but it's still got clarity. So it's going to kind of sit really, really nicely in the mix. So Snapshot 7, we've gone a little bit more modern here. You'll notice I've not changed the cab or the mic or anything, just using one cab as if we're using 3 heads into one cab kind of deal. So, like I say, more recently he's been known for using the Bogner stuff, both the Ecstasy and I've completely forgotten the name of the amp he has started using, but single channel job, and just high gain all the time, and his clean sound is his guitar volume kind of rolled down basically. So generally what he'll do, he'll have it kind of set dirty, roll his volume down for clean, does that. Add the various effects as he goes. And just quickly roll your volume up and you've got that. So what I like about the Badonk, it does that kind of more modern thing. It's smooth, but it's got some grit to it, and it's got that kind of high-end clarity. The depth I've got quite up there. And I mean, it's just got absolutely tons of gain. You can take that gain down and get more kind of a vintage. Kind of find somewhere around there is good. But it does use, I say uses his volume control, he uses a volume pedal, like I said, before the amp, so that will clean the amp up. Just with the volume on about 3, all the way up. Big and thick and juicy. And then, Snapshot 8 is just that with delay. And if you watch some of the kind of more recent rig rundowns, you'll hear kind of tones like that, just clear. But big. Sometimes they're smoother, and he does, with a high gain amp, he still has various pedals that he can smash the front end with. And that's something I've noticed about a lot of Luke's tones, is it's quite compressed. Other than some of his much earlier stuff, which you can kind of hear those dynamics coming through, some of the really high gain stuff is super compressed. So that's just, you know, that old thing of just turning the amp up really, really loud and letting the tubes do the work. But remember, we've got 3 pedals we can choose from to kick the front end. So we've got the Kinky Boost. Scream 808 gives it kind of that thicker mid-range thing. and then the top secret OD gives it that, actually smooths things out a little bit, gives it that real kind of super saturated thing. For the full shred, as Steve likes to say. And obviously in Stompbox mode you've still got access to all those effects, so the vibe. Got a chorus. Etc. etc. Turn that down. So you will see on Luke's boards and his racks that he's got noise suppressors in there. Obviously you've got various things to choose from within Helix. I've not bothered. I generally don't like them. If I use a high gain sound and it's super saturated and super hissy, then I'll just use that while I'm playing whatever I need to play that with, and then just turn the volume down, largely because I'm just lazy more than anything. So there we go. That's kind of something in the vein of Steve's tone. Like I say, I don't have his fingers, I don't have his guitar, I certainly can't play like him, but hopefully some of these tones will get you somewhere close and a good starting point. For the high gain stuff, totally swap that out for the Solo 100 model, or the model of the Uberschall. That works kind of cool too. A little bit smoother. Mess around with the different drive pedals. You'll see he's used anything from the tone bone to more modern kind of super high gain stuff, and it just adds to that massive, thick, saturated kind of heavily compressed tone that he's got. But always seems to sit within a mix, and you know, whenever I try and do super high gain things, I always get lost. So I generally use a little bit less gain. I wish I was Steve Lukather. What can I say? I'm not. So no more questions. I'll keep an eye on the comments going in the next few days. So if you do have any questions or requests for future live streams, then please do leave them in the comments, and we'll get to it. I will make sure this is loaded up onto Custom Tone and post the link pretty soon. Thank you. What will the whole thing look like with a pod go, since there aren't that many options? So if we're going to do this for Stomp and or Pod Go, then you just have it over multiple presets. I've done it with Helix. Again, if any of you have seen me before, I'm lazy, so I'm not a big fan of actually changing presets. I try and do everything within one preset. So I've managed to cram a whole bunch of stuff in here that covers a lot of ground. But you can absolutely do it over multiple presets, which is what you would do with Pod Go and HX Stomp. Yeah, you have to be mindful about some of the DSP limitations in those units, but you can certainly get where some of this stuff may not work. You can totally get as good as. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think Steve runs chorus in front of amp. Anyway, this is awesome video. Thank you, Remy. Yes, Steve does use chorus in front of the amp. He also uses chorus in the loop as well. So in his kind of rack stuff. So that's kind of where I've gone with that. Move it. Download the preset, move it to wherever you like. This is the whole thing with any of these presets that we do and upload for you. They're just a starting point. Mess around with them, make it your own, and just have fun. But it says, thank you, live sessions, very helpful. Sure, no problem, Bradley. So there we go. I am done. Tune in, same time, same place next week. We have, I believe, Mr. Nick Bell up, but it may be the beautiful Tony Campanovo. But we're going to be back next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe, have fun, take care. I'll see you again soon. Cheers.